Hello and welcome to my PIDP 3230 Informal Classroom Assessment Technique. My name is Fawn Nielsen and I chose to speak about misconceptions and preconceptions check. So this is a focused learning and background knowledge probe that can help the facilitator identify what students know and establish a starting point for learning. So assessing a student's prior knowledge, specifically what beliefs they hold that may impede further learning. Some of their learning is a supportive tool or efficient tool for ongoing learning, but some of what the student brings to the classroom is knowledge or misknowledge or ideals or beliefs that can actually block further learning. So how to break through and expose this misconception or preconception in the form of incorrect or incomplete knowledge. This CAT tool is specifically designed to help uncover these areas. When this technique is applied at the beginning of the workshop, the students stand a much better chance to recognize and understand their misconceptions, and this places them in a position to more easily integrate, revise, or transform their knowledge structure. The most common instances for misconceptions to take hold include curriculum that has the greatest overlap with life outside the classroom. So social and behavioral science courses, especially those that deal with really controversial and sensitive issues. Some examples of this include first-year college students with their own preconceptions about political science, sociology, psychology, economics, anthropology, and history. Generally, there are fewer held preconceptions in mathematics and natural sciences and related fields. However, implicit common sense notions that these students cling to can derail their learning. So misconceptions, are things that the individual holds. It's embedded in their belief, and this can stand in the way of a deeper understanding of method or a broader worldview. This approach, the misconceptions and preconceptions check, is especially beneficial when students are reluctant to receive new information, when they interpret the new information as counterintuitive or even disturbing to them. Misconceptions and preconceptions exist, so now what? There's a step-by-step procedure that's fairly easy to use. The first step is to identify some of the common misconceptions that students hold, whether these are perceived even by the instructor or whether they're known. So by selecting a few of the most troublesome areas or beliefs, the ones that will most likely inhibit the student's learning, then creating a simple questionnaire to elicit information. And this is done, most successfully through something like the Likert scale response option. Multiple choice or short answer questions would work best. So confirm with colleagues to ensure that these questions aren't patronizing or threatening or obvious, and then ensure that the questions that you chose to put into the questionnaire that you're prepared to respond to and deal with the responses that might elicit. And explain the purpose of the questionnaire to the students. Ensure them that their responses will remain anonymous, and how you plan to respond to their feedback are all important points to consider. So when reviewing the questionnaire, from the data collected, the instructor will understand what misconceptions the students have, and how many students actually share those misconceptions or preconceptions, and how serious or embedded those actually are. Adapting or expanding this CAT, basically the adaptation of this would be to encourage candid responses by asking students to identify common misconceptions or preconceptions that others have about the topic. This is a really non-threatening approach where students can more easily perhaps identify those in others before they could identify them in themselves. But pairing students together is another approach to come up with a reasonable explanation for misconceptions identified through this particular assessment. So the pros of utilizing the misconceptions and preconceptions check are that it does provide a quick way to uncover common barriers and adapt the curriculum to address these barriers. It also provides this anonymity, which for the students. So this allows them to answer in a safe way. They can answer authentically and share their ideals and beliefs without feeling uncomfortable or unsafe in doing so. Students realize that they're not alone in these misunderstandings or incomplete knowledge, and it provides a platform for students to recognize and question their own knowledge, beliefs, and attitudes, and they become more self-aware. It really challenges their thinking. The cons of utilizing this particular check is that nobody really enjoys having their knowledge or beliefs challenged. It can be upsetting, and it can be really difficult for students to let go of preconceived certainties. Often this shift in thinking takes time. It likely will not fully stick until sometime later, perhaps when the student has had a chance to process the new information or reaffirm it in the real world. So considerations for this particular application. Beliefs are embedded deeply in each of us, and when dealing with sensitive issues or issues which may be personally threatening, that we do not utilize this check until there's an environment of safety and trust, and that's been fully established. We never want students to feel isolated or, alienated in their beliefs, but rather to create a very holistic and collaborative type of environment for them to sort of try on some new beliefs and take in some new knowledge. So in conclusion, I encourage you to try this CAT check when there are misconceptions and preconceptions, especially when they're impeding students' learning to new material. Steering students toward this engagement through interaction with peers, the open discussion or opportunities to respond to questions in a safe environment, to really identify their own beliefs and knowledge or lack of knowledge in a safe way, in an engaging way. We all have misconceptions and preconceptions around social and behavioral ideals, especially topics that we find highly sensitive and controversial. So this assessment it helps them to revisit their beliefs and become more aware of the meaning and the validity of those beliefs. And it's a great tool to help students to grow their self-awareness, and in that they're really growing confidence as well. So thank you for viewing my podcast or my video.